Unless specifically indicated otherwise, the content expressed are my views only and not necessarily those of Life Pro Asset Management, LLC. The content presented is in no way an investment advice, solicitation, or an offer to sell securities or investment advisory services. The material is provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. I cannot assure the accuracy or completeness of these materials. As such, the information in these materials may change at any time without notice. Reference to these discussions about IULs and annuities or fixed insurance products. Investments on fixed insurance products are different from investments in the stock market. Any guarantees provided by a fixed insurance product cannot be assumed to be guaranteed for any other investment.
Welcome to the Rock My Finances show on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV, where we put the fun in finance. Join Powerhouse Jennifer Jose, CDFA, CMC, and Private Wealth Advisor, as she collaborates with you to create clarity, control, and confidence with your money, your way. It's not about the zeros, so what is it all about? Let's find out. Now here's your host and weekly friend, Jennifer Jose.
Back again for an amazing Rock My Finances show. So excited. This is our Soul series again. You're going to love this show. I cannot even wait. So we're going to bring one on at a time. Today's topic is leadership. Like, I know that is so many different things to so many different people, but today we are really going to dive in and say, what does leadership mean to you? And we're going to get four of us today talking about that. So first of all, I'd like to bring on Miss Denise Carbone. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Miss Denise Carbone is a special needs expert. She's a therapist who's supported thousands of young children and special needs and their families for over 30 years. How can you do that when you're only 20? But okay. And she actually holds a master's, which I did not know this, in early childhood special education with the highest distinction of summa cum laude. Did I say that right?
Summa cum laude. Yep.
Summa cum laude. She's also a certified advanced in transdisciplinarian infant and family early childhood mental health practitioner, certified NLP master, which she uses on me a few times, and certified master executive life and parent coach. Stanford Children's Hospital hand-selected Denise to run their high-risk infant development clinic. And that's only one paragraph of her entire bio, y'all. Denise is a badass. I love you. Plus, she's my friend. So, she's really cool. Thank you, Denise, for being here. Appreciate it. And then we're going to join us now, since that's next in my thing, Miss Caron Cavanaugh. She's been a business owner for over 15 years and successfully coached hundreds of clients. And she's also a top income earner in sales, y'all. Being a girl in sales, she rocked that shit. She's also received industry awards for outstanding service contribution and her associates. She's honored with the President's Award from the Bay Area Sales and Marketing Council in 2017 with her commitment of service to the industry. Oh my God, she has even so much more. President of Bay Area Building Industry Association, BIA, and Marketing Council, SMC. Basically, she's a badass, y'all. If you want to know how to sell something, but I can tell you, I know Caron, so she's going to help you sell it from the heart, being authentic and selling it from the heart, but bringing in the cash, because we know we love money here at Rock My Finances. Caron, thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I've never done your bios before. I'm so excited for doing these. Okay, now we have Miss Revlyn Petalyn Swat. Okay, you ready? Oh my gosh. She's done so many things in her life. And I'm going off of your website, my love, and I know things have changed a little bit. So I don't know how much you want me to say and how much you kind of changed, but I can tell you that her gift is helping you get through shit. So if you've gone through crap and you want to get someplace else and you want to be on the spiritual realm of things, Petalyn is your gal. I met her years ago and we connected with divorce because we help women through divorce. She is so surpassed that with just helping people on their spiritual path. She helps our group as well. She's amazing. Petalyn, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Love it, love it, love it. All right, ladies, we're getting down to the dish. What does leadership mean to you? Now, let me just advise our audience. We all love each other, but we do not agree on probably 50% of the shit, we do not agree. So just so you know, no matter what happens here, we all still love each other, admire each other. And we have 4 women in business from all different walks of life, all different ages and different places in our life. And we come to everything from a different place. So I hope you enjoy listening to all of our opinions today, because it's just an opinion. But, we all think our opinion's right. So that's okay. All right. Caron, I'm going to let you start this off because you are our leadership coach. What does leadership mean to you?
Oh, it's such a broad topic, leadership. It's people think, immediately when someone says leadership, a lot of folks think about like corporate leadership,
exactly.
or leading a team, and leadership can look a lot of different ways. So it could, there's that. Yes, there's corporate leadership and leading teams and, whatever. And then there's also self-leadership where, because we are all in our own way, we're all leaders. Depending, we are leaders in our industry, perhaps. We're leaders in our community. We could be leaders in our families. So we could, amongst our friends, right? So leadership can look a lot of different ways. And it's really about how we show up in those situations and doing it from a place of service and servant leadership, in my opinion.
I love that.
So that's leadership, like I said, can mean a lot of different things and it can go in a lot of different directions, but that's kind of my quick 10-cent Reader's Digest version of what leadership is for me. It's really more about self-leadership, because even
self-leadership, I've never heard that term before. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. And when we're leading, even if when we're leading teams or companies, it starts at the top, right? It's kind of like we're the head of the snake, right? So it's like everything comes after that. And so when we are working on our leadership and our emotional intelligence and how we show up and our energy, it ripples. There's a ripple effect.
Totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. Denise, what does leadership mean to you, my dear?
I love how Caron framed it, because I think too, people typically think about corporate or agency or business leadership. And I think it goes a little deeper. And I love the frame about self-leadership, because I hadn't heard that term before Caron brought it up. For me, I usually think about it in terms of leading your community or being the leader within your family. And it kind of stems from the upbringing that I've had with how leadership was modeled to me. I think that's kind of where my model of the world comes from. So I kind of think back to being raised in my own family and seeing my dad as a leader. He was an entrepreneur and led his team in his own business. He was also a community leader and a Boy Scout leader for my brother's troops, and Scoutmaster for years, and then went on to be a leader up the chain to like leading the adults going through different trainings or what have you. And I can go into more about that later. But I think for me, I'm looking forward to talking about what in my mind makes a good leader versus someone who maybe is not such a great leader. I think leadership it's not for everybody. I think we need leaders and we need followers. Like when I'm teaching the kids, like sometimes they get to play the leader in the follow the leader game. And sometimes they're the followers, and not everybody feels comfortable stepping into the leadership role. And I think that's okay, right? So I want to make sure that I honor the people who are listening in and thinking, I don't know if I'm a good leader. I don't know if I want to be a good leader, because you don't have to be a good leader. Some people are natural born leaders, and some can cultivate becoming a leader if you want to. And I think that's what's going to be great about our rich discussion today. And we also need team members as well.
Yeah, we need people to freaking lead, right? Like we need it all. And then you can be a leader in one area and then a follower in another area. Like I love that. And you and your scout family, so you came home from Tahoe and we were worried about you driving, and you're like, no, I'm with my scouts. They got this shit down. We're like, oh yeah, I forgot. That's awesome. Like we didn't have to worry about you. You had some leaders. I love it. Yep. I love that. Yep. Well, I'm an entrepreneur. And so being alone in my little world, I feel like for so many years of my life, I wasn't in corporate. I was in corporate for like just very few years. And so I had to go find my leaders or mentors, which I still do. And that's another question, right? What's the difference between a leader and a mentor? But as an entrepreneur, like you, I love that, Caron, self-leader. So I was on a 2-day bone broth cleanse, and I couldn't even get through the 2-day bone broth cleanse. So I'm not a very good self-leader because I couldn't make it the 2 days. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. So self-leadership, I love that. As an entrepreneur, I think we need someone to follow. Like we need maybe even several people to follow, right? So Petalyn, tell me, what does leadership mean to you?
Like Caron, I would actually call it self-authorship. Reason being is I don't have a corporate background. I have a small business background from my parents. You know, they both were very successful in their individual small businesses. I've been a small business owner. I married small business owners and so on. When I say small business, I mean anything, you know, up to a revenue of, you know, 10 to 20 million a year, that kind of, you know, range. But I think that I rebel against the whole concept of leadership as we tend to think of it. I think that whether you are, you know, the stereotypical leader or follower, self-authorship requires that we do it well, right? Or at least that we strive to do it well. So if we're a follower, I don't particularly care for that term because I think it takes self-permission to do something well and to do something according to a plan or instructions, whether that plan or instructions are laid out by somebody else in a different position than yourself or whatever. It still requires one to say, very good, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be very good at doing this. I'm going to do what is necessary, right? That requires self-authorship. That's total responsibility. And to me, that's where leadership comes in. And so the bulk of my work with others is actually to untrain them from a lot of, you know, concepts of leadership, because that's outer directed. It tends to feel outer directed moving in. So we tend to want to build what looks like a leader as opposed to working completely from the inside out. What does leadership mean? What does leadership look like when it comes from the inside out, as opposed to, I want to reach for that position. It requires being a good leader. I'm going to study everything on how to be a good leader. But a lot of times there's a terrible tension between who we try to be and who we actually are. And in that the more that tension is strained, the more we pay for it, you know, in our health and our emotional life, our personal lives, and so on. So in closing that gap, I find it easier to sort of retrain the brain on, you know, building our life completely from the inside out, even if the end result leads us to something that we didn't imagine we would be doing or we never thought we would do.
I love that. And I'm going to push back a bit because I am a leader. I know that I'm a leader. I have a staff. I've had a staff since I was 23. So I've been leading people in a company for many, many, many years. And if there wasn't someone with the vision or the intention for the outcome to share that, and I know, give me another word other than followers, because it doesn't necessarily need to be employees either, because I'm also the leader in my family. I'm the single mom. I have kids. You know, I believe I'll eat my cat. I tell her when it's time to eat. I tell her when I'm going to clean her litter box. So I not necessarily saying I don't like the word follower, but leadership, I highly agree with you on being authentic and being aligned, because I'm also a follower in other realms as well, meaning if someone puts something out there and I connect with that idea or intention or mission or revolution or whatever, and I authentically connect with that, I'm going to get on that train, whatever that train might be. So they might be the leadership in there. Now, I'm still showing up as my authentic self, like you said, because I love that. Looking from within, does that fit with me from within? Yes. I'm not looking outside other than you're coming up with ideas that I don't, because I don't know everything. And so I need leaders to show me things or create things or see things that I don't see. That's how I see leadership is really important. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm thinking of like leadership as an identity. You know, I think we're saying the same thing in different terms. I'm seeing leadership a lot. We are shaped by language, right? We're shaped by the language that we use, and I think that the term leadership can superimpose an accepted interpretation. And we measure ourselves oftentimes to our detriment against what we see as, you know, in the world as exceptional leaders. And a lot of us, I think that we're all leaders. I think that whether we're doing the job well or not, we are all leading.
Yeah.
As in we are all modeling something for those around us. That's why I go back to self-authorship. We are actually leading, if you want to put it that way. We're setting an example, right? But for me, leadership is about setting an example. If you're talking about spearheading something, that's different. That's not necessarily leadership. You can spearhead something and have somebody else be a leader on it, you know, so it's, you know, anyway.
I love that. I love that. Denise, I saw you waving your hand. You want to chime in there?
I was saying when you were talking like, my word is team member. You were talking about what's the other word rather than follower. For me, it's team member. I kind of look at it like there's a leader who's maybe spearheading is a good word, right? Who's leading a project or leading the team, and the team might be your family, the team might be your cats, like you said, right? But there's, I'm trying to go back to exactly what popped for me when I was doing that. Like, oh, you were talking about the leader has the vision and needs it to go forward. And I was thinking, for me, what sometimes I look at a good leader is the person who can recognize that I'm not the be all end all. I'm not, like, the buck doesn't stop with me. I don't have all the vision. It's someone who can, as you were describing, see the big vision for where we're taking the team, right? Whether it's to the end of a project or the end of a meeting or creating a widget, like who knows, whatever it is, right? I need my team members. As a leader, I absolutely need my team members to work with me on the goal that we all have. And my team members may not have the big vision, right? Some of them might be very detail oriented, and that's all they see. And so they need me to help guide them in their little details. Like, for me, a good leader sees all the pieces, right? The little details and the big vision to help us all get there. Because if we all get there, we're all winning. To put it in that awful win word, whatever.
We get it. We're achieving it. Right.
Yeah. So for me, like, a leader, someone who's a good leader is going to say, I have ideas, but you guys have a lot of ideas. Like, you are the leader of what you do. I'm not. I don't want to know your job. You're the best at your job. You're the leader in your field. I need you to make this project succeed, or this widget succeed, or this family succeed, right? Or for me, it's like working maybe with families on their child's special need IEP, right? Or whatever it might be to help their child succeed. Like, I need all the team members. We need to collaborate together. And someone who's going to be able to see that, okay, how can I help you be successful in your role, right? Like, I want to appreciate you and shower you with what you need, encourage you, support you, appreciate you, so you could feel good as part of a team, right? And I'm going to lead you, whereas other people might not get that. Like, this team member struggling, fire them. No, let's just figure out what they need in order to feel successful, to feel more part of the team. So it's my job as a leader to kind of look at everyone and see if I'm someone that they can trust to hold space for them all to be able to come together for a common goal, like whatever it is, whether you're,
I love that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Coming together for a common goal. I love that.
Yeah.
That's and you're right. There's no way I can do what I do without a team.
Mm-hmm.
So let's change that to team. That's great. So Caron, what makes I know I should be saying a good leader right now, but I'm not. I'm going against the grain. What makes a shitty leader? Like
that.
How can you screw up in that position?
That's a good question. You know what? I think we've all experienced some of that, and sometimes, in learning ourselves, we have been that. I know I have.
No, I have never jumped down anybody's throat for no reason whatsoever.
I think, sometimes it's like the opposite of what we might think of a good leader, right? It would be, and so we can kind of start from the negative and we can work to the positive. That's totally fine. Someone that would only highlight weaknesses, right? And just be jumping down your throat all the time for what's not right, what didn't work. And it's always problems. And going back to, I don't mind the word win from the place of we all need to feel like we're doing well. Right. It's like a human need to know that we're okay. Like I'm okay. My efforts are appreciated. And so a good leader, a poor leader doesn't appreciate the people that they have, and only focusing on the negative and what's not working versus focusing on their strengths, acknowledging that there might be weaknesses, but focusing, on strengths more than the weaknesses. I've had a boss who just yelled all the time at everybody, and the energy in the space, it's like people were afraid that it just stifles creativity, it stifles communication, and there's just so much that can happen when people, and that also can bring up a lot of trauma for people as well because depending on people's backgrounds, right? So when you're in that environment of that constant negativity, browbeating, it's like how often, like how many times you're going to kick the dog before the dog finally bites you, right? Or just leaves. So it's that type of an environment. And again, the leader creates the environment for their people. And so that to me is, a poor leader, somebody who doesn't give a shit about their staff, like really doesn't ask, how is your family? Like knowing you as a human, not as, someone who comes in every day and just does a job. Like they actually show that they care.
I don't think they still do that everywhere right now. Like they don't even know if they're married or have kids or anything.
I think it's helpful. I think, a good leader knows their people because it's also part of, the understanding of their lives and having some empathy. And, also vulnerability is one of those things where, people think that vulnerability in business is bad, and leadership is bad. It's not. It actually allows people to connect and see, hey, you know what? They've messed up. It's okay for me to mess up too. Right. So having that place where, if people can't make mistakes, they're going to stop trying and they really don't show up fully and you're not getting the best of them. So that would also be, someone who creates a place where mistakes are just not acceptable. Now, I'm not saying we all shouldn't strive for excellence, because that's part of that is that self-authorship that Petalyn was talking about, is just knowing that we're going to do our best every day because we're committed to doing our best. And like in the 4 agreements, it's like our best can change from day to day, and that there needs the space for that. Mm-hmm. So that's just a few things that come to mind for me of poor leadership.
Petalyn, comments on any of that or diving into something new?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, again, I'm going to go back to my original framing. I think that a poor leader identifies themselves as a leader. I think a good leader identifies leadership as a role. And that's a huge difference. It's subtle. And I know that what I'm talking about is a little subtle. It's easy to miss. But I think it's vital and really important. And I think to Caron's point, if we see ourselves in a role of a leader for a specific thing, project, business, whatever it might be, our ego has a tendency to become less entangled in it, I would think, if we're that clear that we're acting as a role. So a poor leader tends to identify with leadership. I'm a leader, follow me. Nobody else really sees what I see. They don't tend to engage, and I'm generalizing here, but we tend to not engage our people at the level like Denise was talking about, but that will bring out the best in themselves. Like we've all agreed, we all need to feel valuable. We all need to feel like we have a contribution to make. And when we don't, we basically create poor employees, poor team members, poor family members, all of that, right? So I think getting really clear and just getting really clear as to what leadership is, and it's not a person, it's not an identity, it's a role, can really go a long way in helping us to become better leaders, and also to bring the leadership out in others and not compete with them as much, really recruit them as team members and so on. So yeah, I mean, I think a poor leader pretty much, I think that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed in poor leadership is that they identify, their ego is caught up in it, they identify it with it as a leader.
I'm glad you said that, because that's, in my head, that's old school. And you're absolutely right. There's so much that has.
It's not old school. As long as there's ego, as long as we're
here.
human beings. Yeah.
I hope it's older school than when I've experienced it. Because it is absolutely old school thinking. Like, we are collaboration. We are all collaboration. We all need, I mean, even so as a financial advisor, as my company, as my business, I have my team members. I'm nothing without my team members. Absolutely 100%. However, it's my vision. So I want my clients to not lift a finger. Like, I only want to ask them or bother them or have them do anything when it's utmost, everything else has been tried. And I have to go to the client for something. That's my vision. So I have to state that. Now, how can I accomplish that? I need my team members to buy into that and to understand what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, it's like you have to enroll them in that vision with you so they come on board with it. So you're all rowing in the same direction.
And so they all see themselves in it, not just you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I definitely need them on there with me as well. I learned this when I was with Edward Jones and Renee. Some of you know her. She's amazing. She was my assistant, whatever. She was my total partner. And it was 50-50. Like, I did 50, she did 50. Like, we grew that practice together. Like, we were absolutely together. And that was amazing. And I know I'm generalizing as well, but I feel like women need collaboration. Maybe that's just me, but I love to talk to people, and like, I'm working with Juliet a lot right now. So we talk almost every day about things. Journey, my daughter, like, I like to talk things out because I love the form of collaboration. And when you're all by yourself as an entrepreneur, or maybe that leader in that corporation, that you don't feel comfortable being authentic with anybody with you, you feel very isolated and alone. And I don't believe your best creativity comes out at that point. Anybody want to comment on that? Okay, let's go back to more poor leadership skills. I had a boss as well, Miss Caron, for a hot minute, in between my different situations. And thank the universe, thank God, thank my whatever. However, he was a huge bully. And it was my first experience, because I had been a business owner, my own business, for many years, and to be able to go under someone else, which he was the leader, and he was a very smart man. I love smart people. It was awesome. And everything was horrible. I literally got berated for about 20 minutes because I put the semicolon in the wrong place. Like, that's how bad it was. You all know me. Mama, don't cry. I cried probably 2 or 3 times a week in the bathroom. Like, it was. And I'm like, okay, I'm learning how to deal with all the men in my life at once. So thank you for this wonderful healing opportunity. And I stuck it out for 10 months and said, okay, we came to an agreement. I'm leaving. We're leaving on good terms. This is not my cup of tea. No. And it was horrible to experience that. And I knew I was experiencing that for a reason. So that would be a shitty leader, y'all. That was not a good leader. And it was so smart. So he could have helped me in so many different ways, which did not work. So let me ask you this. When we have someone in a leadership role, like you said, Petalyn, I love that, in a role, how do you know when you're not good in that role? Come on.
Sometimes it's the, like, look to your team. How are they performing?
Yeah.
It's like they're a reflection, and again, whether it's your family or whatever, like, it's how are they responding? How are, what kind of results are they, do you have the expectation of that aren't being met? Is it your it's always, turn that mirror back on yourself. That's one of those things. If you don't like what you're seeing, then, as, someone who is guiding the ship, then, let's talk about let's look at the captain. What's going on there? Sometimes it's environmental, but then again, it's like, how is that person, or like me, how am I responding to the environment? Right? It keeps coming back to me. If I don't like what I see, then it's me. If the people on my team aren't responding in the way that I think they should, then do I need to revisit expectations? Do I need to have a conversation and make sure that we're rowing in the same direction? Is it, there's something missing. And that's, for me, that's like, again, it's that flipping that mirror around and looking at,
which is not easy to do and takes support.
Yeah. And I mean, it could be poor performance. It could be a lot of different things, but it's, you got to starting at the top from a corporate perspective, or from like a community perspective or whatever. And just, start from that place of self. And
then how about if the direction I thought things should go are wrong, and now I have to backtrack and say, oops, made a mistake. I need to lead in a different way. How many times does that happen without the ego getting involved?
Oh, well, that's, usually the ego gets involved first, and then anyone with some emotional intelligence can work through that part. But it happens, and that's, I mean, if we're not failing, we're not trying. Right. And so there has to be that room for, wow, we're going in this direction, but that's a communication conversation. It's a conversation with your team. Say, hey, you know what? I know we were all rowing north. And, I said, let's row north, and y'all are rowing north, and everyone's doing great. And north isn't working. There's a huge storm coming. It's not going to work. Now we need to roll west. I know we said north, but are we on board? Right. So there has to be, you've got to, leaders, and people who are in charge, who have the role of leadership, there has to be communication throughout the process to bring people along the way. You can't just shift gears and go, people are, and with no explanation, right? There has to be a segue. Say, hey, I get this is where we're going. This isn't quite working. New strategy. Can you guys all get on board? Like, can we agree that this is the direction? Can I count on you? Right? It's anyway. That's mine.
So because I said so doesn't really work, right? Like, that's
no.
Because I said so. So here's a good question.
How did that work when we were kids receiving that from our parents?
I did it until they went to sleep, and I snuck out of my room. So that's how that worked. It's because I said so until you weren't looking. Exactly. So that's great. So when communication, you brought up, I love that, communication. So I believe that my role with my team, because they don't know what it's like out here interfacing with clients and prospecting and being this person that I am, they're not that role. So they don't know that. So I always try to explain, this is what it's like for me, and this is what it's like for the customer. So when you have your client, this is what it's like when they're stressed out, and I'm in money. So they're already stressed out about money. Like, I don't want them to do anything else that's going to make them. So I always try to communicate. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. If you see something different, let me know. So how important do you think communication is, or is it necessary for your team to really get on board? Because sometimes it is, because this is the way I see it. Like, even though they might not understand that, sometimes it could be just because do it this way to get it quicker and done. Does that make sense? Petalyn, Denise, your turn. Chime in. Denise?
Okay, I'll jump in. So I hear what you're saying, that communication, I think, is always important, no matter, like, if there's two people involved, communication is essential. Okay. And I think when you have the role of leader and you're leading a team, it's also important to really understand your team members and what they need or what they want, because some people are absolutely going to want all the details or all the information that you're describing, for example, to use your example. And some people aren't, and they're just going to be like, I don't need it. It's just noise. I just want to do my thing. Right. So for some people, like, that's why I think get to know your team. Like we've been talking about that, get to know your team members, get to know, because some of us need all the information. Some of us need to see the small details and then the big picture. Some people need big picture, then small details. Some people just need the details, and some people just need the big picture. There's 4 types. It's on the Myers-Briggs thing, right? So knowing what type of learner or what type of, team member will say, and what they need, and that would be communication, right? So, hey, welcome to the team. I want to support you. I want to fully encourage you to be the best here that you can be to help us with this project. Are you someone who wants to understand everything that's going on, or what specifically do you need? And that to me would be the open communication. That would be essential, just figuring it out, because some people are different. And then also to piggyback on, like, wrap the loop up, it would be what also motivates you, what also feels like a good reward to you. Because some people, maybe the promise of a bonus at the end of the project is a good thing, right? Or a celebratory party. I mean, for my kids and families, it might be like, you get to go to Disneyland, right? Like that might be a reward. Some people are money oriented. Some people are words of affirmation, right? Where they're like, oh my God, good job. I really love how you hunkered down at the last end. I know you were spending time away from your family and it was really hard, but you certainly pulled through. And like, I don't know, like it just depends on what the reward system is for individual people. And to remember that one reward doesn't necessarily help the entire team be motivated to reach the outcome or the end goal, so to speak, if that.
That totally makes sense. And I'm totally guilty of that, because I don't necessarily get to know how, because I just want it done my way. So you're right. I'm going to go back and I'm going to have some conversations. So thank you. I've already been enlightened from today. And I can say that in the financial world, I'm usually, 5% female in the office, if any. And there's never any words of affirmation ever. Like there's never any words of good job. There's never any words of any of that. And so I probably picked up some of that I need to do better at. So thank you so much for that information.
The question would be, how do you like to be rewarded?
Yeah. And I'm going to throw myself under the bus here. I never even thought it's my job to reward them, because it's not. I'm hiring a middle company. So even though it's my vision and my team, I feel like the middle company is rewarding them, but you're 100% correct. Like I could be doing that myself. So that was enlightening for me. Thank you, Miss Denise. And they will thank you as well when I get to know them better. So thank you. Petalyn, I want to jump to you with maybe a little bit of a different topic. Who have you experienced in your lifetime as a good leader? Maybe if you don't necessarily want to say the person or the people, maybe the attributes that you received from them.
I think in education, certain teachers have been very good leaders for me. And I'll tell you why. What we're really talking about is how to have people maximally engaged in whatever it is. I think there are different types of leaders based on different types of projects, based on, different types of jobs. And so, we're speaking very generally because we're not actually speaking about what type of leader, what type of job, and all of those things will differ. And it also determines who you hire. Do you want drones, so to speak, or do you want people who are highly engaged? So my days of, I was involved in a nonprofit many years ago when I was first starting out in my coaching career in private practice. There was an organization called Springboard Forward. And I'm going to piggyback that with one of the tools that I like to use and have used extensively in the past is not Myers-Briggs, but Strengths Finders. And so the whole concept around that is, and I'm going to loop that back to your question, is that when we start with our strengths, when we start with, if our team, we know what their strengths are, that's a huge plus in terms of what a leader can actually bring, again, as a role. It isn't about being a leader. It's really about, I think also being a good leader is forgetting about the fact that you are a leader and just diving into the role and figuring out how best to engage your people, depending on what the project is, depending on what outcome you want, and so on. Use their strengths, right? And all of them will have different strengths, and they can really, really, support one another, so that there's no hierarchy in that particular sense. It's sort of like a decentralized thing all coming together, unit all coming together to produce a particular outcome. And one of the things that Springboard Forward, in the studies and the research that they did, so what they were involved in, working with entry-level employees who were stuck in the loop of remaining in entry level, and so they were never able. They're usually, either immigrants or children of immigrants and so on. And so there's this mental loop of, no matter how hard I try, I can't get out of it, so why bother? But there are those who really want to, and they just don't know how. They haven't been taught by their family. They never received it as an education, culturally, whatever it may be. So we worked with them. And the biggest challenge was engagement. If they didn't believe that they really added value, if they didn't see a role for themselves, if they felt like they didn't matter. So looping that back to my teachers, the best teachers I've ever had were those who really helped me see what my contributions are, what my natural contributions are. And from there, I naturally became engaged because I wanted, to put me in the right stream. And I'm like, I'm there, right? You don't have to teach me how to be a good leader. I will take it from there, And it really, again, it all starts with, how do we engage our people? Yes, it has to do with, the reward system. It has to do with all of those things, but also making what they do, making them feel, engaging their strengths, making them feel like I can do that and I can do it easy. Like it takes less energy for me to perform this particular type of job, whether it's management or whatever it might be, vision, whatever it might be, than it would for somebody else, Somebody who's in accounting, it may take a tremendous amount of energy, so it's not going to be a good match. So you're not going to get their best. So it really comes down to engagement, whether you're a teacher, you're in a leadership role in a company, a leadership role in your household, you're a so-called team member. How are we each engaging and letting ourselves be engaged? Because that's where self-authorship comes in and self-leadership comes in, which has a ripple effect everywhere.
I love that. So, question to everyone, what do we do when someone's in a role that they are not fit for? Like you can see they're not engaging, you're trying to engage them, but it's just not, like you said, accounting, and they're more visionary or big picture, and they have to 2 + 2 = 4, and it's driving them insane. How do you help them see to get the fuck out? Like, how do you help them with that? Have you been in that experience before?
Sure.
How do you help them?
A lot of my clients are that way, and have been over the years, and that's one of the reasons I like an assessment tool to help identify what their strengths are. I mean, for instance, you may have someone where relationships are extremely important. Well, they'd be perfect for customer service or that kind of thing. People can shine where they just naturally have their strengths.
Yeah.
So using a tool would be nice. That's what I would do.
To at least
what would
start
you guys
with,
do?
right? Denise, Caron,
Well,
any comments on that?
No, I think that's actually, I think tools are super helpful, and Strengths Finders is one of those. I think that is just really, it's a great tool for people to use. And because it does just, it just helps highlight strengths for self as well as for the person who's in role of leadership, to really kind of have that understanding. And, then it's a conversation, and it's like, how happy is somebody who isn't performing at their role and they don't feel good about what they're putting out because they don't feel like they're getting it right, or it's taking them to, they're behind the learning curve because other people are learning faster than they are. And, and they disengage. Right. And so there's, it's kind of handling that fear around, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I'll do anything it takes to keep my job, versus, let's put you in a job where you're going to soar. Right. Mm-hmm. This, we put you here, and that's a question, like, how do you feel in the role? How do you feel that, how are things going for you? And, they'll tell you, it's, if the space has been created for open, honest communication, that they can share that, I feel stuck, I'm lost, or whatever. And it's like, it's just not a fit, right? It doesn't make them a bad person, a bad employee. It means it's just not the right fit, and not everybody's an extrovert, So, not everybody can do sales, right? Exactly. So, let's find a place that your strengths are really going to be highlighted so you can feel good about what you do every day. Mm-hmm. Right. And so again, that's just more, more communication and conversation.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Okay. So we're rounding up with the last few minutes left. One great tip for someone who maybe is in the leadership role already, as a mother, as in work, as an entrepreneur, as a father, as just somebody in the family, whatever, doesn't matter. What's one thing that they can do today? Like an action step, like go talk to, not just communication, but like specifically. So like mine, what I'm going to say is I'm literally going to call each one of my team members and I'm going to set a 15-minute appointment and get to know them. So that's my action step for my team members now to advance that communication. Can you give our audience one tip that you would say would help them in a role? Trying to be generalized. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I would say
2 minutes left.
Okay, I'll make it really fast. I'd say embrace a growth mindset instead of a closed off mindset. So if you're wearing the hat that says, I'm always right, I know it all, I don't need to listen to you because I know where this project is going or where this family is going or whatever, I think take off that hat, that closed-minded hat, and put on a growth mindset and say, I don't know everything, and just go from there.
I'm ready to hear. Awesome. Caron?
I would actually recommend a book to read, which is called Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine. But it really talks about your saboteurs and that kind of the little voices in our heads that are either judging either us or others or situations. It really, from a leadership perspective, someone who can recover quickly from their mistakes and failures is really going to help others do the same. And so I think that would be a really, there's a whole lot around positive intelligence, but I highly recommend that for people, again, for this kind of self-leadership perspective. Work on yourself and those those voices in your head that are limiting you from having, from being who you can be as, leader, role of leader, or, staff or whatever. I think it's
awesome. Thank you, Caron. And you're going to text that to us in our Soul Sisters texting because I didn't get that, but thank you.
Absolutely.
Petalyn, your tip.
Yeah, I would recommend Strength Finders or any assessment tool, but I like Strengths Finders because it is based in positive psychology, and the fact is that if we're focusing on what works with us and what works in us, we're not focusing on what we're not doing as well. So it sort of hijacks the whole, go down the self-reprimand role and so on. So just find what works for you. Find what works for you as a leader. And that can really determine what type of leader you will be for others. And yeah, what your strengths are says a lot about what kind of leader you'll be, and it really determines everything else after that. So yeah.
I love it. I love it, ladies. Love you. Thank you so much. This was part of our Soul Sister series. We are here once a month, y'all. Don't miss us. Next month will be a completely different topic and a completely different day. But thank you all for listening. Thank you, my lovelies. Mwah. See
Thanks
you
for having us,
soon.
Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juan.
We appreciate you joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe to the Rock My Finances YouTube channel for more engagement and bonus content. Tell me, what is your money story? Let's find out with Jennifer, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, every Thursday right here on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV. It's not about the zeros, it's about the F word, feelings. Feelings Jennifer can't wait to explore with you next week. Until then, let's all say, I rock my finances.